This is the Blue Streak Equipment RIP Series Magnetic Sweeper assembly video. You'll see what I've done is I've taken all the parts out of the box already and laid them out. For detailed instructions for your bolt size, you can refer to your instruction manual that came with your magnetic sweeper. If you flip to the second page, there's also a little measuring stick on the side, and the way that you measure the length of your bolts, as they're all listed in the assembly instructions, is you measure from the inside of the head of the bolt to the end of the bolt, not the overall length, because there's a lot of bolts that are almost the same length in this for this sweeper. So we're going to start with step one, and we're going to attach the this is step one, by the way. We're going to attach the lower Y handle arms to the magnetic sweeper base using the appropriate hardware that's listed in the assembly instructions. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take one of our lower Y handles, and we want to make sure that each Y handle is curved inwards, and we'll put one on each side. You'll notice that the ends of the Y handles are different. You want to make sure that the lower spaced holes end up at the bottom of the sweeper, and that's what we're going to attach now. So what we'll do is we'll take our 2-inch bolts. I already put a washer on them, insert them through the handle. Then we'll put on a handle mounting bracket. And we'll take that assembly and we'll insert it through the magnetic sweeper base. And then we'll install the other handle mounting bracket, a washer, and a nylock nut. And we'll repeat that for the opposite side. So I'll get my lower Y handle arm, insert a bolt with a washer, a handle mounting bracket, insert it through the front of the magnetic sweeper base, another mounting bracket, washer, and a nylock nut. And we won't tighten those up till later on because we need this handle to remain loose to line up the magnet assembly. So that's the end of step one. This is step two of the RIP Series Magnetic Sweeper assembly video. There's step two that came with your assembly instructions. I'm not going to go through it extremely detailed, but I'll show you how we want to assemble these perches to the magnetic sweeper base to get it operating properly. Now the first thing we'll do is there's two different sizes of nylon shoulder washers. You'll see this is a small and this is a large one. We're going to take four of the small ones first, and we're going to insert them one into each side of the lower Y handle arms that we have previously installed. So it'll be two washers on each lower Y handle arm. Then we're going to take the 4 large nylon washers and insert one in the inside of the uprights. So it'll be 4 nylon washers total. And now that we've got that, we're going to install the magnet assembly onto the magnetic sweeper base. Now you want to go behind and tighten up these bolts so that there's just a little bit of movement, because if you tighten these up all the way, you won't be able to install this over top. So since I'm doing this in front of me, it might look a little bit awkward, but you can see the magnet's working well. Now we take this and set it in. You want to be sure you don't pinch your fingers. And what you have to do is you just sort of gotta move it back and forth to get it sliding up so that the external arms are sliding over the inner arms. And once you get them so that they're both over each other, you can just sort of go ahead and push it backwards. Then we'll go and install the bolts. We'll take your 2 1/4 inch bolts, install the washer, install the bolt from the inside. And this is why you still needed it loose, because this thing needs a little bit of movement to get going through. Take another 2 1/4 inch bolt on the opposite side. Then we'll install a washer and a nylock nut. And on the opposite side we'll put a washer and an eye lock nut. And what you can do is go and you can tighten this up. You don't want to tighten this bolt all the way because this area has to be able to pivot freely. So what we normally do is we just tighten it up to get the eye lock washer engaged. And you just want to turn the bolt enough just so that it gets most of the slop out of the bolt. Like you don't want that bolt to be tight at all because it's going to interfere with the movement of the sweeper. Same thing on this side. Make sure that that bolt still moves freely. And on these 4 bolts here, we're going to wait till we complete the next step before we tighten those up. And that's the end of step 2. This is step 3 of the RIP series magnetic sweeper assembly instructions. We're going to connect the upper Y handle, which is this piece, the release lever, and the release rod. So the first part of this is we're going to attach the upper Y handle to the lower Y handle arms. And we're going to use 2 hex bolts, put a washer on each. You want to use the 2 bottom holes because they line up with the 2 upper holes in your lower Y handle. And insert the bolt. I usually insert the top bolt first. And insert the lower bolt. Then install a washer and an eye lock nut. Now you can go ahead and tighten these bolts firmly using your 2 7/16 wrenches. And then you can tighten up the bolts that you installed in step 1. Remember not to tighten this bolt here. Now all your handle bolts are firmly tightened, so we'll go ahead and we'll install the release lever. We'll take a nylon shoulder flange bushing and insert it on the inside. Then we'll repeat on the opposite side. Oops, hard to do it like that. Sometimes there's a little plastic lip left on those shoulder bushings from the injection molding process, so they're a little more difficult than the others. Then you'll take a 2-inch hex bolt, insert a washer on it, start the bolt in the handle and insert it through the upper hole of the Y handle. Then we'll insert a washer and an eye lock nut. Then we'll go ahead and we'll tighten that, but you don't want to tighten that firmly because you don't want to interfere with the operation. I just snug it up until you can see that all the distance has been taken out of the bolt. So this has still got a little bit of movement to it. And this still moves freely, but there's not an excessive amount of movement in it. Now the last part of this step is we're going to install the release rod. We'll take a nylon flange bushing and insert it into one side. We'll take a 2-inch hex bolt, insert a washer on it. Take the release rod and insert it in between the release lever. Install a hex bolt. Oops. Then we'll install a washer and a hex nut. Then we'll go ahead and we'll tighten this the same amount that we tighten the upper part of the release lever, because we want there to be movement in it, but we don't want it to be too sloppy. And that's the end of step 3. This is step 4 of the Blue Streak Equipment RIP series magnetic sweeper assembly instructions. We're going to connect the lower part of the release rod to the magnet assembly. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take the nylon flange bushings, a large size, and insert one in each side of the lower end of the release rod. Then we're going to insert the lower part of the release rod but in between the two uprights on the magnet assembly. And we'll take one bolt, your last 2-inch bolt, insert a washer over it. Insert it through the magnet assembly, through the release rod, and through the other side of the magnet assembly. Then you'll insert a washer and an eye-lock nut. And you can go ahead, and you don't want to, just the same as all the points where we've tightened up that have nylon bushings, you don't want to over tighten this or tighten it up too much, because you still want it to be able to move freely. So I just tighten it up till you get the slop out of the bolt, and you want to make sure that the magnet still lifts without any restriction from the bolts being over tightened. And that's the end of step 4. This is step 5 of the RIP series assembly instructions. We're going to attach the 8-inch steel wheels to the magnetic sweeper base. The first thing we'll do is we'll take our wheel bolt and we'll insert it into our 8-inch steel wheel. Now you'll notice that we want to have the cupped side of the wheel on the inside. You can see the difference between the two sides of the wheels. This side's dished in, this side's dished out. And we're going to install the wheel in the second hole on the sweeper, which is the 1-inch sweeping height. If you put your wheel bolt in the top, you'll be at a 1/2-inch clearance. And if you put it in the bottom hole, you'll be at 3.5-inch clearance. So we'll take the wheel and we'll install it into the hole. And then we'll take the 3/8 flange nut that came with the bolt and install it on the back side. And then we'll repeat the procedure for the opposite side. We'll insert the wheel bolt so that the cupped side is inwards and against the magnetic sweeper. We'll insert it in the same corresponding hole to the opposite side that we already installed. And we'll install the 3/8 flange nut. My hand might be in the way. And then once you've got those snugged on, you can go ahead and tighten up those bolts using your 9/16 wrench and a 3/4 inch wrench. And you want to tighten those bolts up fairly firmly. And then repeat for the opposite side. And that's it for your RIP series sweeper assembly video.